Hi, I'm Kerry Kirkham and you're sipping with the Wine Fox. With me today are some canned sakés. These four in particular. So I've wanted to do this video for a long time. Like, I bought these sakés back in June and I wanted to do a video, and sake just intimidates me sometimes because it's such a massive topic. There's so much variation, so much technical stuff goes into making sake that I don't even know where to begin, and I don't want to bog you down with too many details. Maybe we can explore it together over time. And so this video is just come explore sake with me, and we can start out with something that's so simple as a casual, inexpensive canned sakés, which actually are quite good. So I'm going in a tasting order. I'm gonna start with Night Swim. So Night Swim is just very subtle, and I'm gonna try it out of two different vessels just to prove a point. One is what I like to drink sake out of, which is kind of like an old martini glass from the 60s. These were my mother-in-law's. She's Japanese and has really great taste. And then this is from a wine glass, my foxy little wine glass, and we'll see if it makes a difference. You know, if you want to, you can drink sake right out of the can. So let's try it three ways. We have one, out of the can, out of the martini glass. Here's the wine glass. And this is served chilled, by the way. All these sakés are chilled. Honestly, I really prefer it out of this glass, and you'll find your own way. Drink it out of whatever you like drinking it out of. Okay, so let's discuss the sake. You know, I wrote a bunch of notes down, and all of a sudden now I can't find them, but this is called Night Swim. It's a futsu sake, which means it's just a comfortable everyday sake. And it only has a seimai-buai of 70%. So when I say seimai-buai, that is the rice polishing rate. And what they do is they polish rice down to just its core. So what you have is starch in the center of the rice grain. And around the outside, you have the bran, you have proteins, fats, lipids. What they do is they polish it down to just the fermentable starch. And that usually results in a finer, more subtle sake. And so the less that's polished away, usually the less expensive the sake is, and also the more flavorful it is. It has different flavors. So I find polishing rates, I like them all, because it just depends on what mood I'm in. Sometimes I want a subtle sake, and sometimes I want a lot of flavor. And so this was very subtle. And so one thing that's really difficult is how to discern what you're tasting, because you look at it and we drink with our eyes, and I'm used to red wine, white wine, and that usually gives me a sense of flavor. This is clear like water. You know, how can something that's clear and looks like water have so much flavor, aroma, and complexity? It blows my mind, and that's what really kind of intimidates me about sake, because I'm still learning the flavor profiles. One way I'm doing that is I went to a website. It's a Japanese government website, and it's on sake, and I downloaded a sake tasting wheel. So what I do is I'll sit and taste sake, and it's like, wow, I'm tasting banana. Oh, banana's on here. Oh my God. Or like this, it's like I was tasting this. I'm like, oh my gosh, a little bit of chestnut. So it's very clean, very elegant. I get chestnut and like a Thompson seedless grape. I get a little bit of like juk, like rice porridge. I get, oddly enough, celery. You hear stuff going on in the background. My husband's baking, so there's going to be a bunch of noise. This is a working kitchen. But anyway, it's really fascinating how, you know, how subtle this is. And another thing that affects sake flavor, other than that rice polishing rate, is the rice type. Now, there are so many different rice types, and it's almost like different grape varieties. So, like you think of Chardonnay versus Sauvignon Blanc versus Cabernet Sauvignon, that's how different flavor profiles are in sake. And this is a Koshi Hikari, and the sake is 14% alcohol, so it's about on par with a wine, and really tasty. It's imported by Vine Connections in Sausalito. I used to work right across the street from them, and we sold some of their sakes at the retailer I worked for. And I was so stupid to not go over there more often and ask them questions and just bug them about sake, but I was intimidated because I know so little. But I want to start exploring it, and the only way I'm going to do that is exploring it with you and actually tasting and paying attention. And I encourage you to do the same. So next up, it's from my hat. Obviously, I love this. It's Bushido, Way of the Warrior. It's done by Kizakura Shozu Brewery in Kyoto. It's a Ginjo Genshu. And when you see Genshu on a label, you can expect it to be a little bit higher in alcohol. Now this is, God, this was high, 18% alcohol. That is significant. That's like port level. So you have to plan your consumption accordingly. This little can is 180 milliliters. So if you were to drink, like I have 4 of these, if I were to drink all 4 of these, it would be like drinking a bottle and a third of wine, a regular size wine bottle. So there's a lot of booze here. So be careful when you're consuming. These cans are bigger than they look. The nose on this is just phenomenal. I almost get like a tutti frutti kind of nose. Lychee, maybe. And almost like a fresh mushroom quality. Now, that is coming from koji. That's another thing that affects sake flavor, other than the rice type and the polishing rate, is the koji, which are the spores that convert the rice into fermentable sugars. And then the yeast, which there are like 30 or more types of yeast, convert the sugar to alcohol. So again, just so much going on here. Okay, this is a more forceful sake, a stronger tasting sake, but it's fantastic. I'm drinking it cool. Again, with like lychee, fresh mushrooms. It's not forest floor or funky. It's a very fresh taste. And like, I do get that steamed rice quality. And maybe like almond skins, that kind of thing. I mean, there's just so much going on. And again, if you're tasting sake and you're having trouble like, God, what am I tasting? Download this. I downloaded this at work and taped it to the back of a wine box, piece of cardboard from a wine box, and I just covered it in tape, and I would just look at it, and it's like, gosh, there's so much you can taste in a sake. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Okay, I'm gonna dump this, and we're gonna go to the next one. This is called Kibo, which apparently means hope in Japanese. There wasn't much information on this. It's imported by Sake One in Forest Grove, Oregon. And when I looked at the rice type, it said rice. Come on, man. So this had a little bit of a yellow tinge to it. Just a little hint. One thing, let me pause that thought for a second. All of these sakes I picked for one reason. Well, 2 reasons. 2. One is they're all canned, and the other is they have a date on the bottom. Can you see that? So there's a date on the bottom. This date tells you when it left the brewery. and you should ideally drink it within a year and a half of the time it left the brewery. February, you know, this is fine. It's February. This is a little past, but we'll give it a try anyway. So, and again, I bought this in June, so, and it's now September because I procrastinated because I was intimidated. But anyway, so always look for this, and it should be within a year of a year and a half of this date. And I refuse to buy sakés that don't have this, because you don't know how long it's been sitting on the shelf, and they're obviously not making sake for the sake drinker. They're making sake for the retailer, and they don't want to distress out expired sake. So even sodas have this. So like there's a date on the bottom of this non-alcoholic beer, and it shows when it was packaged. That gives you a sense of freshness, because flavors degrade over time. Now, it won't make you sick, but it won't taste as the brewery intended it to when it left the brewery. So again, no date, no buy. That's my rule. Okay, so back to the Kibō. So this has a subtle yellow tinge to it. So here we go. See that? Just a little bit. And it left the brewery on June of 2021, and it's September of 2022, so it's well within date. Wow, subtle nose, much more subtle nose than the Bushido, which I like the Bushido. It's not a good thing, it's not a bad thing, it's just its own thing. Okay, so to my palate, I get yuzu, I get marshmallow without the sweetness. This tastes fairly dry to my palate. Yeah, again with the yuzu in the finish, marshmallow, and maybe, God, I'm blanking. What is in rye bread? Caraway. Caraway. Yeah, God, caraway. Interesting. Shake it up. This is an unfiltered sake, a nigori. It's a nigori junmai, which means it should have a polishing rate of around 60%. Alcohol is 14.9% alcohol. Interesting. This is also brewed in Kyoto, Japan. And so I want to show you, so that's the top, that's how it comes. Let's give this a spin. So you could see what an unfiltered sake, which is nigori. Nigori always tastes a bit sweeter to my palate. It kind of looks like horchata. There you go. So see that? Ooh, very fun and tropical. Oh, this is fun. To me, this would be an after dinner drink. And you can even pair this with stuff like chocolate. A little hint sweet. I get lychee and peaches and lychee and peaches and steamed rice. God, there's something else. Is it dill or something? Something like a fresh herb. That's a lot of fun. So I don't know what the sweetness level of this is. It's called Nihon Shudo, and the higher the number, the drier tasting the sake is. So all of these sakes I bought at Cost Plus World Market. I think these two were $6.99, and these two were $5.99, and it's well worth it. I drank the filtered sakés with dinner, which was chicken katsu with rice and a salad, and it went fantastic. But it can also go with seafood, with just a lot of different foods, anything that you would pair a nice dry wine with. I don't know why we don't drink more sake with Western food, but that was my exploration of sake. I hope it's been helpful. If you want to learn more about sake, I recommend searching. There's a Japanese government website, and they break it all down, and that's where you can find the tasting wheel. Also, if you look up this name on YouTube, John Gauntner, he is incredibly knowledgeable, and he explains sake beautifully. He doesn't dumb it down, but he makes the information approachable and understandable. And he does get technical, and you can take in as much as you wish, but check out John Gauntner, really cool. And to that, I say kanpai and carpe uvum.